Please tell me your name and roll number.
So my name is Kaushik Patnaik. My roll number is 308896.
Okay. And give me a formal introduction.
Sir, I completed my Bachelor's of Technology in Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering in year 2011 from Shiksha Anusandhan Bhubaneswar. Post that, I have been working in Tata Consultancy Services Limited as a solution designer. It has been almost 10 years since I have been working with TCS. And my present job role is that of a solution designer and team leader. Currently, I am handling and managing a team of about 20 plus people. And apart from my work, I am associated with a Bhubaneswar-based NGO named as Umide, which is basically working in the field of cancer awareness, and also we keep doing blood donation time to time.
Okay. So, what are your hobbies?
Sir, it is traveling. For COVID, it is a bit restricted, but usually in pre-COVID time, it was traveling. That was my favorite activity.
Traveling. Okay. What are the major challenges or the planning that you have to make? Okay. So suppose you are planning to go to a place after 3 months. Okay. So what are the travel plans? How do you make your travel plans? And do you travel or make the plans early? And what are the major issues and problems you face while planning the travel?
Sir, firstly, regarding the prior planning aspect, we need to plan time as well as money. Like how much time do you have, how many number of days of leave we can manage. So that is first thing, the time, the number of days, the duration. And second is what kind of money we are planning to spend for that vacation or for the travel. So it is first time and money consideration that has to be taken before doing any kind of planning. It is a basically time planning of time and money basically, sir. And regarding challenges, sir, in India, apart from the commercially touristic place, like there are many orbit destinations which has got very much potential, but the accommodation, the travel arrangement are not that great. For example, sir, Devmali Hills, that is one of the very sought after destination, and also Orissa tourism is promoting a lot. But I have been to Devmali Hills recently, but unfortunately, there was not enough amenities which we should have developed, but those things are not there. This is one example. So there are many touristy places which could be developed, and there are potential which can be monetized, and meaningful employment can be generated out of that place. But somehow I believe we are still lacking in that space, sir.
Okay, so your home district is?
Khordha, sir.
Khordha.
Sir.
So can you tell me some of the places having lot of tourist potential in Khordha, but they have not been developed till now?
Sir, Otri, that is hot water spring, which can be turned into a commercial tourist destination, but I think it is underdeveloped. And secondly, the Buddhist circuit in Odisha. Those are famous among the foreigners, basically people who come here with the intention of visiting Buddhist places. But I believe the domestic tourists are yet to, those places are yet to get any traction from the domestic tourist. I believe these places are underrated so far as domestic tourism is concerned. And also along the Chilika coast, we have a vast coastline near to the Chilika coast. I believe capacity building could be done there to promote tourism, and there are a lot of avenues where there could be some scope of improvement in terms of tourism, but still those places are not yet fully utilized.
And suppose you are given that responsibility as an administrator, what are the steps that you will take to ensure that these smaller places, okay, they come to the limelight, okay, and people in that region, the locals, they get also some employment. So what are the steps you will take, and at the same time, what care will you take that this sudden onset of tourists does not damage the ecosystem there?
Okay. So the approach here would be the sustainable tourism or ecotourism in those places. Especially, let's take the example of Chilika. As it is a Ramsar site and it was under Montreux Convention until few years ago. It means it is ecologically sensitive. Any kind of development in terms of tourism also has to be a sustainable development near the coast of Chilika. So I believe arrangements such as ecotourism, village tourism, this kind of tourism can be developed there, where only a handful of people per day will be allowed to do certain kind of activities. And nowadays, based on my observation, I am seeing that people are more gravitated towards this kind of tourism, some kind of experiential tourism, which we can say, without harming the natural ecological balance. We can facilitate things like ecotourism. This is one aspect, sir. And secondly, to promote tourism, I think we need to take help of private players, the private tour operators. We need to spend more of campaigning, be it on social media, print media, or any other media. We should be spending more on that. And of course, capacity building followed by that. As I said, many of the touristy places are not yet fully developed for full-scale tourism. So we do need to take care of the infrastructure development in those areas as well, sir.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that from the point of view of law and order and security of foreigners and tourists, how will you rank Odisha as compared to some other states of India?
There has been sporadic incident where some complaints have been received from foreigners, but moreover, Odisha has been considered as a safer place, relatively safer place as compared to other states so far, sir.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, one or two places which have completely developed as tourist destinations, and do you think the local people have benefited anything from this? You can give some examples, one or two examples from different regions of Odisha.
Sir, first example would be the Satkosia Eco Tour. Like that was a pilot project that was taken by the Odisha Forest Development Corporation like 3 years ago, sometime in 2017. So they tried to implement ecotourism and village tourism as a pilot model there in the Satkosia Wildlife Division. So now in 2 years, I think they have become positive cash flow entity. Like they are generating money out of it, and there is no debt as such on that particular entity. So it has been a tremendous success in last 2 to 3 years, the ecotourism. Like almost all their cottages are sold out for the entire year, and in that ecotourism, basically the facility is run by the local people only. The OFDC, Odisha Forest Development Corporation, has employed the local villagers. They work there as a guide, as a facility manager, as a cook. I have seen there are at least 40 to 50 people who have been employed there on a rotation basis. It means it is generating local employment, and also because it is an ecotourism, it is not harming the wildlife division in that nearby area. This is one example, sir, I have seen. And I think the government is working on plan to extend this concept to other areas, such as Bhitarkanika National Park. There are Nuanoi Eco Resort near Puri. So similar kind of model can be implemented, because this pilot model has been a vast success.
Mm-hmm. Since you raised the, you mentioned forests, so have you heard about the concept of joint forest management?
Sir, does it mean the management is forest dual by the government as well as the local inhabitant?
Yes, something of that sort. Have you heard about the Forest Rights Act?
Yes, sir.
Tell me something what you know about the Forest Rights Act.
So, sir, Forest Right Act of 2006, it was enacted in an aim of joint development management of the forest resources. Basically, the indigenous tribal people are handed over the land right, the forest right, and who have been actually dependent on the forest for their daily life for generations. Basically, they get the ROR, the patta of that particular forest land, and they do take care of the forest preservation, conservation, and management of forest. And it basically the responsibility gets shared between the government as well as the local indigenous people, who basically can use the forest for the specific set of activities without destroying the ecological balance. It is basically in the tribal dominated areas, sir.
Okay. Now let us come to a situation based question related to this tourism. So suppose you are in the tourism department, okay, you are just a entry level officer there, and you have been given the responsibility to take care of the issues of the tourists. So you get a complaint from a group of international tourists, like 2 or 3 people, who allege that the locals, okay, have taken their money and they have they have like misbehaved with them. And at the same time, there is a parallel complaint, okay, which was lodged by the locals at the police station, that these foreigners were basically they abused their women or something of that sort.
Okay.
Okay, and the government has two objectives. Number one, it should not, get into a difficult situation. So you have to take both the sides. Okay, you have to ensure that none of them is aggrieved, basically, because if the tourists are aggrieved, then it will be a negative publicity for the state, and if the locals are aggrieved, and let's say, for example, they are of the indigenous tribes, so that will be another big problem for the government.
Yes.
In that case, what are you going to do?
Sir, I think here the sensitivity of case is bit higher, because any action without the basis of proper evidence can lead to negative image, I believe. So firstly, we need to thoroughly investigate what exactly has happened, taking the help of local police if necessary. And secondly, I believe we need to make sure that there is not much media highlight into this incident, because when on my personal observation, I have seen that when media is involved in situation like this, things get blown out of proportion. So we need to make sure that things do not get highlighted in the media without unless that investigation is completed. So first thing, we need to do a proper investigation. We need to get to the root cause, what exactly has happened. And secondly, maybe if it is the fault of local villagers and local people, maybe we can give them a warning, and we can get some kind of written agreement that this kind of activities will not be repeated. And if it is a fault by the foreigners, maybe in that case also we may give them a warning, because if they go ahead and punish any of this party, then I think it will not be good for the future prospect. I mean, the area may get a bad name, maybe tourist footfall will decline over the time. So this kind of scenarios could happen. So I think this scenario has to be dealt with utmost sensitivity, and we need to be sure that things do not get highlighted in the media.
Okay. Does Odisha have a like tourism or ecotourism policy?
So recently, government has been advocating the ecotourism a lot after seeing the success of Satkosia pilot project. So I believe there are 10 or 12 different sites where government is proposing to have this ecotourism facilities.
You have been there to the Satkosia government?
Yes, sir.
You have been there. Okay. What are other places you have travelled in Odisha?
Sir, Koraput, Kalahandi, many places in Western Odisha, because I did my schooling there. So Sambalpur, Bargad, Balangir, Nuapada, part of Nuapada, Koraput, Malkangiri. I have been to those places. And on eastern shore, Katak, Bhubaneswar, Khurda, Paradip, Bhitarganika National Park, Barampur.
Okay. So you're traveling as a hobby, and you have travelled all these places in Odisha. What are the qualities, okay, or values these have instilled in you, and how do you think it is going to help you in your career as an administrator?
So the first thing that we learn as a traveler is how to manage ourselves with changing scenario. Like while on the move, we cannot expect to get all the convenience and all the luxury. So many a times we have to adjust with the situation. We cannot get everything everywhere. So basically that resilient attitude, that is one thing that, and the time management and money management, of course, we have a set number of days to travel across many places, so which needs a bit of planning. So the second aspect we learn as a disciplined traveler is the planning and discipline, of course. These are another qualities. And with the decided amount of budget we need to complete our traveling, it means the money management aspect is there. So basically it is time management, money management, discipline, the ability to cope up with any situation. These are the aspects which we learn as a traveler, and this has got application not only as administration but as any aspect of life. So I believe these qualities are helpful, sir.
Okay. So there is some news regarding Air India recently. Can you tell me what?
Sir, government has been trying for I think last 2-3 years to completely disinvest out of Air India and sell it to eligible private party. So now, as far as the recent news, the Tata Group, the Tata Sons Limited, and the group led by the former CEO of SpiceJet, Mr. Sanjay Singh, they are the leading contenders to take a bid of take control of the Air India. So the deal is not yet finalized, but very soon I think, as per some unconfirmed news, the Tata Son is going to take over the Air India. It was originally started by Tata Group only 67 years ago, and I think the ownership is going back to them.
What is your opinion? Many critics say that government is privatizing everything, and at least you should not privatize big public sector enterprises or entities like Air India. What is your opinion?
Sir, I believe government has no business to run every business. Like there are some business which need some kind of expertise. Let's say running an airlines. Like most of the airline, they actually survive on razor thin margin. There is a stiff competition. The fuel prices are all time high, and operating costs are also high. So it means even if the private airlines which are run by the private management, also they are also trying to survive in this huge cost environment. There, I believe it is only the Indigo Airlines which is making profit in last 3 years consistently. Otherwise, all other airlines are actually struggling to make money. So in that scenario, I don't think government should get into every other business just for the sake of it. And similarly with the Air India, which is about debt of 23,000 crore, I think government has taken the right decision to take it off its balance book, I guess. If it goes to a competent private player, I think it is better for the Tata, I think it is better for the airline itself and also for the government, because the debts are running into high numbers in tunes of 23,000 crores. I think government has taken the right decision, sir.
No, you said that some private airline is actually making profit. On the other hand, this Air India having lot of resources, government resources, and lot of other infrastructure and all. What is the reason why are they not profitable?
Sir, as far as I know, in 2007, Air India took some decision to, I think they ordered some huge number of aircraft, anticipating that the global air travel could go on from that point of time. But in 2008, the global economic slowdown happened, and there are many structural reasons happened in global economy, which actually pushed back the aviation sector. And from that point, actually, they have been struggling to make money. So they have huge asset, they have huge network of basically from city to city connection, but there is not huge demand to accommodate their assets, and they are struggling to make money. And on the other hand, the private sector, let's take the example of Indigo. They are basically operating on the short haul sector, like where the duration is not more than 2.5 hours, and those are in higher demand in the domestic travel. So that could be one of the reasons why Indigo is making money, and despite having huge asset and great air connection, Air India is not making money, sir.
Recently, government of Odisha brought out a policy to encourage certain category of original equipment manufacturers, like those who are manufacturing electric vehicles, etc.
Okay.
Can you tell me what is that policy?
Sir, basically that is FAME 2 policy, the faster adoption of EV vehicles, manufacturing of EV vehicles basically. So recently Odisha government has incentivized, it has started to giving incentives up to 5,000 rupees if someone purchases a EV two-wheeler, and up to 15,000 if someone is buying a four-wheeler. Basically that policy has already been adopted by government of Delhi, Gujarat, Maharashtra. I think Odisha is the third or fourth state to give those kind of incentive. So basically they are incentivizing people who are going to buy the electric vehicle. I'm not sure of any OEM manufacturer, sir, but this is the recent news that I know of.
Okay, so you are working as assistant consultant. So what are the profiles of your clients, like in the health domain, or in which domain basically you are working?
So presently I am working for a client who is a major healthcare provider in the North America, sir.
Okay, and you have been for deliberations and other work to their site?
Not in this project, sir. I was working for one of the client based out of Australia. That was a major broadcasting corporation in Australia basically. I was working for them. So for that assignment, I was basically working from on-site, sir.
How many years you stayed there?
Sir, it was on business visa for a short duration of 3 months twice, sir.
Okay, if given an opportunity in Australia or North America, let's say a long-term residentship or even let's say permanent residentship, okay, would you be interested in North America or let's say Canada,
Sir, I
Australia?
hold a valid work permit for Australia at this moment, sir, which allows me to stay there for 2 years, which can be extended by another 2 years. But sir, I decided to come to this service, so I'm not pursuing there. So I'm working.
So give me some good reasons, because you are now basically in higher mid-level segment, right?
Yes, sir, you can say.
Mid-management segment in IT. So your if you are joining here in Odisha Civil Service, excuse me. So there's a huge difference in the pay that you are getting now and that you would be getting from the government. So what is the reason, or what are the reasons which have motivated you to take this decision?
Sir, when thinking about the long term, considering the next 30 years of job profile, when I think of that factor, I think it is the diversity of the Odisha Civil Service that attracts me a lot. For example, if I get into OS, I can almost work in any government department and other private entity which work in license with the government, let's say Indian Oil Corporation or BPCL. I know there are many officers get deputed to these positions from OS cadre itself. It is a diversity of job, sir, that attracts me. The job is multifarious in nature. We can work in any department at various capacity, and all of those are leadership position basically, where the employee is expected to, the officer is expected to manage a number of people at different level. So it is something which I am doing at this moment at a smaller scale. So OS will provide me that opportunity to do people management and team management at a larger scale. And secondly, the diversity of job, it means I believe there will always be a continuous learning opportunity throughout the career in next 30 years, which is something IT sector cannot provide me. Although with passing time, I will be managing more number of people, the job profile may get more fancier, but I believe it is the constant change of environment and diversity that will attract me a lot. And regarding the monetary factors, sir, I believe at some point of time we have to make a balance between the expectation from our job and life and the money that we are getting. I think it is a trade-off between these two factors basically. So I think the diversity and job satisfaction will compensate for some of the quick monetary difference which I might be getting, sir.
Okay, so your this TCS CSR arm. So what is basically this TCS CSR arm? What are the major projects they are doing here in Odisha?
Sir, mainly they are working in the field of skill development, competency development for people who have just passed out of the 10+2, also diploma holders. They are from time to time they have been associated with Skill India to provide skill impartment. Secondly, humanitarian activity like blood donation camp, plantation drive, all those things. And thirdly, one of the vertical is the facilitation of various facilities in school where the school where the management is not very well off, like the people the school where the people from underprivileged startup society are actually studying. There we keep organizing competition from time to time so that they do not feel left out from their private school counterparts. These are the main activities, sir. And after COVID, I think, I'm not directly involved in last 1 year because of COVID, but there has been some events related to Swachh Bharat Abhijan and plantation drive. Those are happening, sir, in last 1 year.
Okay, and you have basically also worked for fundraisers for cancer fighters, right?
Yes, sir.
So can you tell me, like, is there a kind of a regional profile here in Odisha, that some parts of Odisha the incidence of cancer is more and as compared to other parts, and if that is the case, then what are the reasons?
Yes, sir. Based on my observation, after I got associated with the NGO, I have seen that we are seeing like a bulk of the cases from district of Bargarh, Jharsuguda. There are specific blocks in Bargarh district, the Bhatli district, where we are getting many of the cases in bulk. Like there are repeat cases from those areas, and also we get many of the cases from Ganjam, the places around Berhampur. We do not know the reason exactly, sir, but there has been some news reports and audit by independent authority which says that in Bargarh being the rice capital, the rice bowl of Odisha, there is like indiscriminate use of chemical fertilizers and other fertilizers, manure and all those things. And those are being used in indiscriminate manner without any scientific background to it. That could be one of the reasons, sir, because of high trace of chemical compound in rice and the nearby area. Because when you use this kind of chemical fertilizer indiscriminately, it leaches into the groundwater, it pollutes the groundwater. That could be one of the reasons, but it has not been officially proved yet. But it is based on some expert. They are saying that it could be one of the reasons because of the high incidence of cancer. And also in Berhampur, we have seen that. Many of the food adulteration cases comes from Cuttack and Berhampur. It is seen that because there are some areas around Berhampur which could be the hotbed for like food adulteration. Like we have been seeing the incident of duplicate masala and different things. There are adulterated duplicate products of various food companies here in Odisha, and most of the things are originating from places around Berhampur. It could be one of the reasons, sir, why it could be happening. Otherwise, we do cases from all across Odisha, but specifically I have seen cases are coming in huge number from Bargarh and Ganjam.
There have been a lot of, so how do you raise funds? Like you do it on a personal basis, or like you ask general people to contribute? What is the medium? How do you manage to get the funds?
So basically this NGO has many volunteers across districts, sir. So we encourage people, because it is because of word of mouth, people do get in touch with this volunteer. Like people who are really not financially well off to get a treatment in AIMS or Tata Medical Bombay. Basically they do get in touch with these volunteers, and we basically that organization, we get the medical profile and history of that patient. And there are many doctors, oncologists who are associated with our NGO. They basically go through the medical history of that patient on case to case basis. After validating the genuineness of the case, they basically say that okay, this profile is fine and this profile is genuine. After getting a confirmation, we basically push that profile into various fundraiser sites such as Milap, Kito, and also we have our own platform and the list of donors, the people who actually are keen to donate for this cause also. So we push their profile into this social media site basically.
Mm-hmm. So this crowd sourcing, do you think that the government also can use it in some way?
Sir, for example, the PM Care Fund is one of the example of crowdsourcing, we can say, which has been initiated by government in the recent time after the aftermath of COVID-19. So yes, sir, definitely it can be leveraged, because there is no harm in asking general public to contribute for any cause. I mean, the same concept can be leveraged for strengthening facilities like Swachh Bharat Mission or urban rejuvenation mission, or improving the standard of sanitation, drinking water, etc. This can be leveraged definitely.
There is a lot of criticism about the PM Cares Fund. What is your assessment? Can you tell me what were the major reasons for criticism, and what is your assessment?
So recently the government stated that PM Care cannot be brought into the purview of RTI. So there were allegations that the transparency is not being maintained. I believe the government should have been more vocal and open about what is the purpose of PM Care Fund and how the transparency of the book of accounts would be managed. I think that communication could have been better from earlier point of time. Because of, I think, the lack of clarity actually gave rise to this kind of allegation basically. I think government is right in their stand. They asked the general public for contribution, because definitely the government revenues were hit around that time. The industry production were all-time low, economy was getting hit. So I don't think they did any mistake by asking common people to donate. But regarding the transparency and auditability of book of accounts, I think the government could have been more clear on their stand from earlier, sir.
Okay. You have given blood donation as a special achievement.
Sir.
Blood donation, lot of people donate blood. So can you just explain and can you convince us that blood donation is actually a special achievement?
Sir, I think there is no replacement for human blood. Like the loss of blood can only be compensated by human blood only, and there is no substitute that has been developed for this. So a person has to donate blood, then only the blood bank can flourish, and the people who are in distress or any kind of medical urgency can be given blood. So I believe that is one of the greatest form of human service, I believe, because there is no replacement to it.
Okay. So your optional subjects are home science and geography, right?
Yes, sir.
So can you tell me why you have chosen these two optionals?
So I chose home science because the syllabus was quite conscious, and I, being a working professional, I couldn't devote more than 4 hours per day. So I thought home science would be more easier to cover, and I went through the previous year questions. It was feasible, at least it was doable with limited preparation. That was the reason I took home science. And regarding geography, it is a bit technical in nature, and also from school time, geography was one of my favorite subjects. So I thought of taking geography, sir.
Do you think that these subjects will anyway help you as an administrator? If you think so, then give me the points or the areas which in which knowledge of these subjects will help you as an administrator.
Yes, sir. In geography, we learn about demography, disaster management, the regional planning. I think as an administrator, these areas will have direct application. Odisha being a disaster-prone state, when we learn about how disaster management work, what is the framework, how the different agencies such as the NDMA, SDMA, the ODRAF, the National Disaster Relief Fund, how all these things are working in coordination, definitely it is going to help us understanding the disaster risk preparedness, how the risk can be minimized, and how effectively we can do disaster risk reduction before, during and after the disasters. Secondly, regarding the demography, being an administrator, we need to have a clear idea about the human, let's say the gender ratio, or what is the education level of the general population in the area which comes under our jurisdiction. So this demographic knowledge is very much necessary being an administrator, and geography does teach us that. And regional planning, of course, when we are talking about integrated rural development program or any kind of urban planning, so we need to have a fundamental knowledge of geography. In this way, sir, geography is helpful. And regarding home science, like India is grappling, and Odisha in specific, it grappling with malnutrition at a larger scale. So home science, it teaches about the aspect of nutrition, malnutrition, what kind of agencies are currently in action to actually combat the issue of malnutrition. On top of that, local self-governance, the community development, all the aspects are taught in home science, which I think are of direct application from administration point of view, sir.
Okay. So you have done your graduation in electronics, right?
Yes, sir. Electronics and telecommunication engineering.
And telecommunication also. Okay. So a few questions about that. So in telecommunication, is there any use of this optical fiber?
Yes, sir.
What reason it is used?
Sir, basically the signal quality is high. Basically in technical term we call it as a signal to noise ratio. So this, when the signal to noise ratio is high, it means there is less loss and higher signal quality, and faster transmission. Of course, usage of energy is bit lower as compared to the other mode of communication. So basically low energy, low latency, high speed, high bandwidth, these are the characteristic of optical fibers.
And what is the principle on which the optical fiber works?
Basically there is a source which is basically LED, and in optical fiber, I think there is some difference in refractive index, which basically emits, it basically reflects almost all of the incident signal. So it basically, the primary feature here is the loss due to the transmission loss is very less compared to other medium.
What is that exact term called? It is abbreviated as TIR.
Total, it is some term, sir.
internal.
Total internal reflection, sir. TIR.
Okay, fine. So, in the project of Government of India to get internet to every village, they are using this backbone, or they are using something else?
This is one of the protocol that government will be using to facilitate internet connectivity to every gram panchayat. This is one of, and also there was some talks going on with the Google Balloon project. Basically, it is a stationary object which will be stationed like 30 kilometers above the surface of Earth to transmit internet. I think that project has been stalled due to operational feasibility issue. Basically, that was one of the things that government was trying to do to provide internet coverage to whole of the country, sir.
Okay. So, how will this knowledge of electronics, and in which domain in administration do you think your studies of electronics and telecommunication will help you? If you can give me some concrete examples.
Sir, I think the internet facility is, I think as per some agency, they are quoting internet as the basic human right, because using internet we can facilitate different facility to the common people to get the services from government. It can help us establish a to and fro communication between the common citizen and the government. It provides that bridging facility. Let's say for delivery of e-governance facility. For example, in nowadays, rather than visiting the Tehsil or any other government office, work is being done through e-district portal and other common service center where the common public do not have to visit the government offices. So facilitation of internet, fast internet, reliable internet, and availability and accessibility of quality internet is a key factor in providing better governance. It is one aspect, key aspect, sir, at present day. And apart from that, due to high penetration of smartphone, other handheld device, the receiving grievance and grievance redressal could be made more interactive, faster and efficient with passing time. This is another aspect, sir. And these are the area where there is direct application of electronics, IT and communication, sir.
Okay. Have you heard about Zener diode?
Yes, sir.
Tell me something about it in simple terms, why it is used.
So Zener diode is basically a normal diode which is reverse biased. It means the P side is connected to the negative side of the battery and N type is connected to the positive side of the battery. So there is something called as Zener voltage or reverse bias voltage. When the applied voltage is more than that, basically the breakdown happens and the sudden surge of electron happens. That results in sudden increase in electricity basically. So basically it is used as sensing voltage in different circuit. That is the application, sir.
Okay. Tell me something about Kirchhoff's law.
Sir, there are two laws of Kirchhoff. Kirchhoff law of voltage and Kirchhoff's law of current. So basically in a parallel circuit the voltage remain constant. Like when a parallel circuit is connected to a source. So it means if Vs is the source voltage and the circuit is connected in parallel, so it means the applied voltage is constant across all parallelly connected circuit. That is Kirchhoff law of voltage. And Kirchhoff law of current is that in a star-like pattern, the incoming current is the sum of total outgoing current. Like let's say 5 wires are connected to a common source, it means the sum of current in all those 5 wires is equal to the incoming current from the source. It is basically Kirchhoff law of current.
Okay. So suppose, okay, your do you have any like younger brother or sister?
Yes, sir, I have a younger brother.
Younger brother. So in that case, suppose, okay, you both of you are preparing for civil services, okay, and both of you get into civil services. You get into state civil services and he gets into central civil services, okay, and let's assume that you do not have any other attempts for the central civil services, okay, UPSC, and your brother is posted in the same district where you are to be his junior officer. In that case, how are you going to handle this situation? Would you need to make some emotional adjustment, etc.?
I don't think, sir. When it comes to professional front, I think we need to behave professionally. The family relation or any other emotion shouldn't come in professional work, definitely. Even if some of my family members are posted as a colleague or seniors, I think that shouldn't be brought into work, definitely. We need to be emotionally stable to work well in those kind of scenario. There is no place of emotion while delivering professional services, sir. That's what I believe.
Okay. From that, taking that a bit forward, do you think that that an ideal officer should have some kind of sympathy, empathy, and or he should stick to the rules and the book, whatever has been ordered to him, he should do that only?
Sir, I personally believe it is a combination of both. I mean, we cannot work like robot. Also, at no point of time we should be violating any code of conduct or rule at any point of time. But at the same time, we should have qualities such as sympathy and empathy to the cause of common public or to the cry of common public. Definitely, it is our job to make things better for the common people. So definitely, these qualities are very much needed. But the bottom line is we shouldn't be breaking any kind of rule in the disguise of emotion, I guess.
So you said that you were there in Australia for 3 years. So you were working where?
Sir, I was there for 3 months.
3 months.
Twice
sorry.
in 3 months.
Okay. So basically, you were working in your own office, in your own company, or you were in the office of the client?
I was working in the office of client, sir.
Client.
I was
So
recruited there.
can you tell me what is the difference in the corporate, okay, affairs, or in the way the corporate sector in Australia or in the North America and European countries they work? What is their work culture as compared to what we have it in India?
Sir, mostly in India we tend to stretch our working hours. I personally believe we could have completed our work in India within stipulated 8 hours or 9 hours, but it doesn't happen that way. Like people used to take more, based on my observation, not as a derogatory comment. I believe people here tend to take more breaks, the lunch break, the before lunch break I have seen. But there in Australia, I think usually people go for 15-minute lunch break and they do not take any other break, and they work for straight 7.5 hours. So there is a positive side and negative side to it. Like people get overworked after working for 7.5 hours, but usually they leave on time. They have this concept of perfect work-life balance. They tend to at least try to honor the work commitment as well as the family commitment that I have seen. They usually work for straight 7.5 or 8 hours and they leave on time. That is one observation that I have seen, which is not the same in India. We usually stretch our working hour by 1-2 hours easily on any given day. And secondly, the communication is very short and crisp. Here we tend to write big emails explaining what happened, what could be done, what is the process improvement in that way. There I have seen people are very fond of short and crisp communication. There would be one-liner or two-liner email that would capture all the meaningful information, and that's it. The email writing style is very much different, and here we get normally calls on weekend as well. I mean, it is very normal to expect a work call during the weekend, and there I have not received any work call during the holiday or off working hours. These are the key differences that I have seen.
Did you get a chance to interact with their public service delivery system or anything related to their government?
Yes, sir. I mean, it is mostly interaction over the portal only. There is no one-to-one interaction. So I had to apply for bank account. I had to get the transport NSW card. Because basically, that is a multiple card. That is a card that you can use on multiple transport system. Basically, you just give your passport copy and any national identifier, and they give you that. So if you have any grievance regarding that, there is a service site where you can lodge complaint. So that system is very much efficient. And we do not have to visit any kind of office. Everything is online basically, sir. And that system is very much prompt, efficient, and time-bound delivery is guaranteed.
Have you faced any kind of racial discrimination ever in your
no,
life?
Sir. I mean, in
abroad?
No, sir.
No.
But I have heard incidents like that. I mean, these incidents could be there. I mean, people do experience at some point of time. I mean, the racism and all those discrimination, I believe those are present. Personally, I haven't seen it though, but I know people who have gone through it actually.
Okay, so my last situational question to you would be, suppose one of your colleagues, okay, who is basically a national of another country, okay, foreign national working in India, let's say in your team, he comes and complains to you that, like, some of the members of your team, etc., they are maybe commenting something to him which he feels is has racial undertones, but he does not understand that. Okay, so in that case, what are you going to do?
Sir, I think as per my organization policy, the policy of diversity and inclusion, I need to report this incident to the requisite authority, because there is no place of bullying or any kind of discriminatory comment in workplace. I have to make a formal complaint. I personally can do it, or I can advise the colleague who has been aggrieved to complain the same. That is the first thing we need to do, and the organization can make an investigation into that.
So you have been managing a team of more than 20 people. So what is the most difficult part of man management? Now you are managing 20 people, and with the grace of God, if you get into OS, maybe you will be managing around hundreds, okay, under you in different capacities. What is the most difficult task from your personal experience related to man management?
Sir, on my personal experience, it is basically setting expectation during the appraisal time. Like everybody, I mean, most of the people, they work to their optimal capacity, but during the appraisal time, it is not possible to give everyone top grade or top ratings. So it becomes quite difficult to manage those expectations from the associate who are reporting to you. Like, let's say 20 people are reporting to me, I cannot give everyone an outstanding grade. That is simply not possible, because as per the organization mandate, I have to give some person average rating, some person okay rating, some person outstanding. But I cannot go ahead, even if I want to give everyone an outstanding rating, but I cannot do that. I think this is the most emotionally difficult thing that I have experienced so far, sir. Managing expectation.
Okay. Now suppose, just taking it further, suppose one of your, someone who is under you, the management has decided to terminate his services on the account of below par performance, and it has been asked to you to convey that to him. So how are you going to handle this situation? And suppose he is one of your personal, he is quite close to you, the junior is quite close to you, okay, and you had very high opinion of him. So in that case, how will you, but your organization has already taken the decision, okay, that from next month his services won't be needed. How are you going to tell this thing to him?
Sir, I'll try to convince him that this organization is not the only place where he can find a meaningful employment. I'll advise him to work on his skill. I will advise him to work on new skill related to his field, improve on personal aspects such as communication, written, verbal, everything. I'll ask him to keep his LinkedIn profile updated so that he get more visibility on the social media basically. And then I'll inform him that this decision has been taken. And also, when this kind of thing happens, basically the organization do take care of other aspect, that the person is at least getting the opportunity to upgrade his skill. His LinkedIn profile is updated, and also they try to give some referral so that the person who is being fired get the next job immediately, at least in least possible time. So these are the things I'll take care of, sir.
Okay. Okay, fine. So that will be the end of the interview.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Overall, तो ठीक अच्छी मते तो सब ये लगे 250 रु मते दी मार्किंग करियर थी बो, सो मु अराउंड 190 रु 210 रेंज रे देबी मार्क्स. ओके. गोटी ही जिनसो आपनकर आई कांटेक्ट वेवर हो, ओके मे बी आज सेटअपटा टिके अजीब टाइप से मे बी हो पारे बट आपणकर मोर आई साइट लाइन ऑफ आए सेटारू एपटू आप भूतर देखते ठीक अच्छे तो सही पार्टा टिके देखिए अदरवाइज क्वालिटी ऑफ आंसर कंटेंट स्पीकिंग स्टाइल ये सब जिनस तो फर्स्ट रू ही ठीक अच्छे तेणु किसी ये कर एंड situational questions also most of the questions answer was according to me quite honest so that is the best answer किसी great answer कि किसी गोटे माने out of the blue answer दवा totally सेठी चेष्टा करिवेनी पूरा normal answer जोटा सेटा ही देबे backed with some reasons से माने पचारंतु कि न पचारंतु situational questions रे आउ opinion based questions रे तो आपण तार reasoning टा भी दे देबे ओके So overall it's आपन को आउट के भी you have to be prepared for anything which is unexpected दीटा रीजन तार गोटे हला कि आपन को एते वर्ष एक्सपीरियंस अछि सेकंड हला आपन को एते दिन घुची गला परीक्षा 27th रे हवा कथा 5th रे होची राइट सो you have got the extra time so से extra time पे maybe they'll put extra pressure समस्त नंबर जो मानकर 5 तारिख रे हो तो सेटा भी सो जस्ट कीप इन माइंड से माने जति कि सेमते एक्स्ट्रा प्रेशर पकोचनी कोन you behave normally okay and maintain your smile right okay thank you